Okay, so this week let's discuss something about software development using generative AI app. So in this scenario, we are going to uh, take an example with the help of googlebard. You can obviously use other generative AI apps like ChatGPT or Midjourney or any other sort of APIs that can be used, right? So the things that we are going to learn or know is about the software development, the right way of doing the software development with the help of generative AI apps, like how you uh, interact with the help of prompts using the set of functional and non-functional requirement that we need to give, and other all sort of steps that we should be following to to make it a very smooth going project. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. So basically, these are very high level steps that we can follow. So first of all, obviously, with any of the work that we start with, or any project work that we initiate, we have to come up with our non-functional and functional requirement, where we define what should be the functional one and what is not functional, right? So the functional one would be like the technical requirements you can include, what project you are building, like what application you're going to build, uh, what is the team size that you're going to take. That will be mostly on the non-functional side of it. What would be the stakeholders involved? What industry it is going to be involving, right? So all of that could be somewhere on the non-functional side of it. The next thing that you we have to take care of is what programming language you want to use for developing the application as such, right? And once that is decided, when you have determined that, uh, next move should be like we got a bulk of project, right? I mean, there will be multiple components involved. So break it into multiple small tasks, which can be assigned like whenever in general, in real time, whenever we are working on any of their project, we try to create small tickets, right? And based on that, we are coming up with uh, I mean, we are coming with some sprint planning, and that's how we need to mimic it whenever we are using even the GenAI app also to develop the application, right? So just try to break your ask whenever you are going to interact with the GenAI apps. So once you are done with all these steps, like you have defined the requirement, you have selected the programming language that you want to use, and also the small task you have defined for individual steps or individual timeline. So now take all of this requirement with the GenAI application, give the prompt similar to how we have defined here, right? So you have to give it the overall requirement, including the functional, non-functional, the programming language on which you want it to build the application, and then the very next step is like, as you are asking the GenAI app to collaborate and help in developing the application, like you work in general with a larger team, right? So similar to that, you need to feed all of those information, and once you have set the right context here for the app, the very next step is that now you can go and start interacting with this AI app to give you, like, you can ask, can you generate or suggest what should be the right architecture for this application? Can you tell me what should be the design pattern that we can follow as a best practice that you think? And you can obviously tweak it as you feel, because obviously we have to iterate over multiple iterations and then try to develop it, right? Okay, so now once that step is also there done, it is going to generate the code based on the design pattern. So next question is obviously going to be that you have to ask the GenAI app, can you generate the code based on the design pattern that you have suggested just above? Okay, now you got the code. Take that code, go test in your local environment, or maybe the remote environment, whatever you are using. And after testing, obviously it is not going to give you a perfect response all the time, so there are going to be a lot many errors that you can expect from the code that is delivered by this GenAI apps. So what is the next step that you have to do? Now go back to GenAI app, ask what should be the fix for that error, right? So even that can also be resolved using this code generators, the GenAI apps. Okay? So all of these all together combined, they really help you in building your application, which you can do with the assistance of this GenAI app without needing help from any other additional human resource as such, right? So you can see the amount of impact it can make altogether whenever you are working with this new GenAI apps, right? Okay, so the next step that we can talk about is like, or better, instead of just talking from the theoretical aspect, let's go look into the screen and then see how the demo looks like. Okay, so we are going to follow through these steps, or maybe a very high level, we are going to see enter a prompt and try to generate some code for the application, for any random application, right? So let's see. Let me try out some of the prompts here. Give me a second. Fine. So whenever we are working with any of the uh, I mean, in general, when we enter any prompts into the any of these apps, like in this case, this is a googlebard. So when I ask it to write me any generate any code, right? So in general, what we do, we don't refine our prompt, and that's the reason we don't get the right responses. Now here, if you can see very simple example, which is not written very well. It's a what I'm saying, write a Python app that converts PDF files to text and save the results in database. Very generic one. Let's see what how the output looks like. Okay. So this is just one script that it has generated, given some understanding how it works, right? But I need to also know how I'm going to utilize it, how I'm going to actually, I mean, let it, I mean, what was the architecture behind it, what is and pattern it followed, right? So all those things are also very important when we are doing any sort of application development. So I need to really give a right context whenever I'm going to develop this, I mean, complete project planning. Okay, so let me now also give it a try with a refined prompt, which will be giving me more a better response. Okay. Okay. So here is a sort of very refined prompt that I have. Okay. So now I'm going to tell the GenAI app that okay, you are an experienced software engineer. So I'm actually trying to set a context for the app. Okay. So I'm just telling it, okay, you are an experienced software engineer. Write a detailed technical specification for building a Python app. Okay, so I'm defining the language which I will be using for it. So building a Python app that converts PDF files to text and saving the results in a database. Also, think through the entire process of building this app step by step, and after the specification is complete, let's work together these steps one by one, and generate the necessary code for each part of the app. Okay, so now it is not going to I mean, once the one prompt is done, it is not going to lose the context. It will have the understanding of it even in the upcoming steps, that whatever we are going to work with, right? So actually kind of we are blocking the AI app to just be active as long as we are not done with our application processing, right? So it is going to look for further steps as well. So what we are also saying, now you will ask any necessary questions to clarify my requirements if needed. Okay, so all together now let's see how the response comes. Okay, fine. Okay, so if we see the difference here, so earlier we had only the code, only the technical code snippet. That's all. We did not had any understanding what was our requirement, what was the design behind it, and how we are going to develop altogether. And once it is developed, who is going to actually take care of all the pieces? And I mean, once we want to deliver it to someone else, okay, how they are going to maintain it? What will be the testing approach, right? So that idea I did not had earlier when I entered the prompt. Now I have a clear cut picture here. So here we are defining what is our requirement. So if you see the requirement, the app should meet the following requirements. So it should be converting to PDF. So it is actually generating a documentation, but also suggesting how it should be looking good, right? Even if there are any best practices, it is going to explain that what was the best practice and how the code is generated. Okay, and we can keep on enhancing it. If it is not looking good, we can definitely go for multiple other iterations and enhance it, right? But if you see I mean, a big project or even a small project, if I say in this particular scenario, which could have taken me at least a minimum of 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, if we are working very dedicatedly, it could have taken me at least 1 week to 2 weeks, which I'm able to now do within seconds with very defined documentation, and even the code is available. I can go ahead, I can use this code, do some sort of testing, whatever is required, and then later I can also, I mean, as per the suggestion, I can even ask, okay, as you have suggested that I can use Docker file for the deployment strategy and all, right? So can you help me in generating those Docker files? So here the context is very clearly set to the GenAI app, so it is going to be very precise whenever it is going to respond back, right? Which is very helpful in our overall application development. So that is all that I have to share in this particular discussion. Any questions? Anyone has any question?
Like I would like to ask here, since it responded with a great uh, this content, how we can combine all these steps into a design?
Yes.
That is not feasible right now from the bad, right? From from
Okay.
the Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. See, from the design perspective, also, I think we can use a few of the plugins which can actually generate the architecture altogether, an architecture also. Okay. But on very light note, what I recall is there is a support for dot language. Okay. Recently, I had learned that. So if I can try, okay. So let's try out what is a dot language, right? So
So
children
plugins for Bard or plugins for something
plugins for
else?
any of these GenAI apps, right? So even for the Bard or for the
Okay.
other ChatGPT or any other app, there are plugins available which can actually enable you to even generate the images or any other sort of things that you want to do, right? So the plugins, if you are using, it will be more beneficial uh, because as of now, these applications are only available as I mean, the words only, you can say the chat only option you have, right? But if you add the plugins, it is going to help you with generating even the images, and furthermore, it can work on. For now, what I'm doing, let me give you a quick example of how you can actually generate a what you call the use cases. Okay, so I mean, these are some of the architecture that you can generate. Let me generate one with the dot sample, and then we'll see. Okay, generate a sample dot. So this is more of a graph for the graph only, right? So here what I'm trying to show this particular graph language. If I try to pass on to another application like graph bridge. Yes. So here, if you see this kind of process architecture or the how the connections are established, I can actually pass on this information based on the ask that I had. This is not coming because the code is not good. Let me find out if I have some previous data. Okay. At this point of time, I'm not able to retrieve it. But what I wanted to showcase is like there are ways that you can ask this GenAI apps to generate a graph language code for you. Okay. So suppose I had some architecture in place. Okay. and I can ask it to convert into understand this complete architecture, convert into a graph code, okay, that is a dot language code, and then I can take it with online softwares like a GraphBase or which is very much open source. Okay, so I can pass on to this application, and it will generate architecture for me immediately without any additional effort, right? So I will immediately have even my architecture also ready in place, which can be shared with the team for further development, right? So I can keep on enhancing it also using this GenAI app. So that is how it is very helpful. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. This is the same tool that I also used with
Mhm.
Terraform to generate the diagram or dependency. Let's say I'm going to deploy 3 tier architecture, so it generate the overall architecture in this format only.
Mhm.
So this is the same tool, right? Can
Yes,
we work with any? Okay.
yes, yes. You can do that, and you can import it in different formats as well, right? So
And
that's
Jitendra,
very
have
good.
you also deployed this requirement on cloud or somewhere? And like, have you implemented this
Which requirement? I
like
did not.
the
Prompt?
yeah, this prompt, yeah,
No,
on
I
to
have
some on VM or something?
no, I have not
Okay,
deployed anything like that. I have just got an approach how it works, right? So I have not
okay,
yet
okay.
used it at extensively, but yes, it can definitely be used for any sort of application development anytime,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Okay, so fine. Let me then stop the recording.